Do you agree with me that there's a difference between religious marriage and state marriage? Meaning you don't need the state to be married in a religious sense.
Yeah. Because you're
So
married.
if a man wanted to be in a religious marriage with you and not a state marriage, would you have any objection to that?
I guess that would depend on like the content of it, because it's like, how are you going to financially function with a partner if it's not legally?
What do you mean? The same way that everybody and their brother who's not married and cohabitates financially does this with their partner right this second, which is the overwhelming
Well, I've
majority
also
of
never been married, so I don't know the full extent of how that goes. You
You can
know.
have a joint bank account with somebody who's
Yeah.
not
Oh,
your
okay.
spouse.
Joint, you can have all the same things. You have all the same things. There's just no state involved.
I guess no.
You wouldn't have any objection to that, right?
No, because it's holy matrimony.
Great. Well, then if that's the case, what if he says to you, all I want you to do is sign this contract that says that the state can never get involved in our marriage?
I thought a prenup is just that.
No. The answer to my question. My question is, what if he asked you to just sign a contract that said the state can never be allowed in our marriage? We're married through the church instead. Would that be acceptable?
Yeah.
Okay, well, that's a prenup.
I thought a prenup was more of like just strictly financial.
No, the prenup is saying we're not ever going to involve the state because we have now done away with all the conditionals that if this relationship does not work out, the state cannot come in and say A, B, and C, and D.
Oh.
This has already been litigated before there was ever a need to litigate it, right?
Well, then, yeah,
So if
that
it is
makes
true that you're
sense.
fine with a religious marriage, absent the state, and fine with signing a contract saying the state can never come in and litigate, then that means that you're fine with signing a prenup.
Okay, yeah. I guess my idea of a prenup was wrong, but yeah, that makes sense. Like, why wouldn't you? Because to me, it's like Brian said.
Well, you just answered your own question.
Yeah.
What do you mean, why wouldn't you? You're absolutely fine going into a religious marriage and exiting the state from it and signing a contract that the state can't get involved, then you're fine with a prenup.
Well, yeah, because I mean, if you're going into the marriage worried about money, then it's like, why are you getting married?
Right.
Oh, no,
yeah,
but she's
sign a
still
prenup,
objecting to
yeah.
the prenup.
No, I'm not.
No objection. Yeah.
Wait, you are still objecting to the prenup.
No, it makes sense to sign a prenup if you.
But you just said, well, why are you getting married then?
No, why would you be getting married and your sole focus is about money?
Yeah, so you object to the prenup.
No, I'm saying
So prenup fine, but also...
if you're objecting to a prenup, it's because you're worried about financial states.
the woman is objecting to it.
Right. So she's so worried about money going into this marriage, and it's like, well, you guys work together in the marriage. And am I making sense?
Yeah, you're making sense.
Okay.
You had something.
Yeah, I just remember reading like this stat, and I don't know how accurate it is, but it's like 50% of marriages ending in divorce isn't accurate for like first-time marriages. The number's kind of skewed for people who've been married like 2 or 3 times,
Sure.
and those marriages usually end like, and so it kind of like skews the,
Sure, absolutely.
the data there. So
Sure. Is
I
there
think,
further...
yeah, I mean, just kind of like, I think there's maybe more reason to get married if you're getting married to the right person and it's your first time. Then there's a less.
Sure, there's less... If it's the first time getting married, there is a less of a risk,
Yeah.
I suppose.
But also, like, if you have kids, I mean, I think it's better to be married.
Why?
I read in my, like, kids, it was like child development or something like that. And I don't know
Oh, so it's
why.
soft science?
No. Not.
Oh,
it's-
not even the science? Okay, go ahead.
It's, well, I don't know. But I just read it in my child development class. And
Yeah.
it was just basically that people who come from a married household, like, have I don't know, they are more successful.
They can be. It's not a guarantee.
Not a
though.
guarantee, but it's like
Highly likely.
it's more likely that you will have a successful child if you are married.
Is it more likely you'll have a successful child, or is it that people who are married happen to have more successful children? Like, I don't think it causes it necessarily.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know for sure.
Was there something more that you had, or was that?
I mean, it was those two.
Okay. Yeah. I have to read this really quick. Legendary trash pans. I better get legendary status for this. Stop interrupting. Stop interrupting. Just stop. Okay.
That was from
Thank you, legendary Trash Panda. Really appreciate it. Okay, wait. So Nessa, going back to you, the marriage thing kind of started with you here. You said it was weird. Your friend kind of took over the conversation. Can you articulate why it's weird to not want to get married?
Well, for me, it's weird because I'm religious. And, like, so coming from it from a secular point of view, obviously I'm going to think it's weird. Because for, like, Christians getting married is, like, a really big deal. Like, more of a big deal than it is secularly, I think. Because it's a commitment you make to God as well.
It's a blessing.
Is the,
And it's
let me ask you
considered a
though,
blessing.
the state, is the state religious?
The state, like California?
No, the state, the
state.
government.
The government? No.
No, okay. So when you get divorced from your husband, does your religion oversee it, or does the state oversee your divorce?
If you're married legally through the state, then the state would.
Which most people are,
Yeah.
even if they're religious. Yeah, so even if you're the most well-to-do Christian, both the partners are very pious and devout, and they adhere to the faith. In the event of a divorce, that kind of all goes out the window, even for religious people, because your religion does not it does not oversee your marriage. The state oversees your marriage. And also the problem with this, like whether you're traditional, conservative, religious, so the state presides over your marriage, not your biblical values. So when the woman is unhappy, she's going to go to the state, not God.
Well, she should go to God.
Right.
Well, she can go to God first, but when she inevitably perhaps seeks out the divorce, she's going to go to the state, and she's going to go to attorney.
Yeah, we're just looking at enforcement. So the idea here is, like, you could morally be correct that everybody should go to the church for their marriage. I don't disagree with that. But who ultimately has the force in this scenario? It's not the church. You ever seen a church enforce any type of divorce ever? No, because they can't. So what you're left with is, who's the enforcement arm? In this case, it's the state. So Ryan says, I don't want the state involved in my marriage, right? And I can't think of a single good fucking reason why he should. Not a single one. And I have asked every woman who's ever come on whatever this question, why in the world would a secularist ever get married? It is the dumbest decision in modernity I could ever think of. It's almost 100% for a lot of the, well, okay, it's not almost 100%, but the likelihood that this is going to end badly is extraordinarily high. If you ever were to ask somebody, would you get in an automobile that 50% of them crash? They're not getting in the car. And it's like, why, if you're not a religious individual, if you don't believe in Christianity or Islam or something like this, why the fuck would you get married as a secularist man? It's beyond me. And so I'll ask this panel the same question I've asked every woman who's come on, whatever. Can any of you think of a good reason why a secularist man would ever want to get married in modernity? A single good reason?
If she can make cookies like Rachel Wilson.
Yeah, you can have the cookies without the marriage, right?
I feel like that's the problem with modernity, though. That's the reason we have so many broken people, because they come from broken homes, or lack of commitment, lack of responsibility, lack of...
How do you have a broken home if you don't get married?
A lot of people have relationship or have kids outside of wedlock, and then when they decide they're done dating,
Yeah,
the
but
kids...
you're thinking about this from the Christian perspective. Think of it from the secularist perspective.
Well, that's what I said.
The secularist doesn't give a shit about abortion. The secularist doesn't give a shit about any of these things. From a secularist standpoint, if they impregnate a woman, and it's a secularist woman they impregnate, she just goes and gets an abortion. They don't have to deal with any of the fallout from any of this, right? Why in the world would they ever get married?
Well,
Why? They could just give the same. In fact, couldn't a secularist just make the declaration, we are now married, and they would be? Like, what's the governing authority here?
You had something, Nessa? Go ahead.
well, yeah, I was going to say, like, yeah, that makes sense, because marriage is in a sense, religious because God created marriage. So, like, if you're someone that doesn't believe in God or follow Him, why would you follow something
But
like
I
that?
think there's actually enough, even for religious men, Christian men, simply by virtue of the state's involvement. I think that's enough justification to be hesitant, even as a religious man, when it comes to marriage.
It is. Well, it is.
I
It is.
would
I mean,
say-
even that it is.
I would-
And that's why and you
Yeah.
see the secularists rage against me for saying that there should be an ecclesiastical authority over marriage instead of a state authority. They get so enraged they can't see straight because so you're going to allow the church to interfere in people's personal lives? It's like, as opposed to the state, what makes the state better qualified to do this?
Well, I guess because the church isn't God. God is the ultimate authority. So that, I guess that.
Yeah. When was the last time you saw God come down and stop the state from coming in and enforcing a divorce?
I guess. I mean, obviously not. But God has his
Obviously not.
God has his ways of doing things through other forms, and
Yeah, listen,
guess
I agree
to
with you.
say
Listen,
that-
I agree that the Lord works in mysterious ways, but the state is not a mystery. And divorce is not a mystery, and the fact that most of these marriages end in divorce, that's no big mystery either. And the truth is that most people are setting themselves up for failure in modernity getting married, absent some type of religious conviction from the woman they're getting married to, and an authority from a church community which assists in marital problems. They're almost always setting themselves up for failure. The state can't offer any of those things and doesn't. So from a secularist perspective, what the fuck is the point of them getting married at all?
then
Like, what is the actual point?
what's the point of dating if dating is based off of the structure of marriage?
What?
We get
Well,
dating.
well, I don't think they
dating
believe it
is
is.
marriage without the actual full commitment. You do all the things married people do.
Why couldn't you have the same
What?
commitment?
Say that again.
Why couldn't a secularist have the same commitment? Why couldn't a secularist woman and a secularist man just declare that they're married and they would be?
Well, why don't they? 'Cause
They do. They do. So many secularists are like, nope, not doing the marriage thing, but I'll commit to you for the rest of my life.
I guess I've never.
Wait, what's the point of dating? I mean, recreational sex, procreational
No,
sex, having
I'm
a partner.
saying why call it dating if you're getting the entire structure of dating from the structure of marriage, just without calling it that.
Well, okay, so I don't think that they consider, when you say the structure of marriage, a Christian marriage, are you saying that when Christians date, it's within the confines of the structure of marriage?
I call it courting because dating or courting would be leading to marriage without the physical interact or intimacy.
Why couldn't a secularist do the exact same thing?
Do they not? Do they do that?
Yeah. There's plenty of
they court
secularists
up
who will
until
do.
marriage.
Yeah, there's plenty of secularists who won't have sex until marriage.
So
For all sorts of different personal reasons, yeah.
when is the turnover for them if they don't call it marriage? They just say,
They do call it marriage.
but you just said
They just don't call it marriage through the state. They say we're married, we're just not married through the state.
Wait, so okay, going back really quick, then I'll move things on. Why is it weird again?
What?
Why is it weird?
To not get married?
Yeah.
I mean, if that's what you want, I mean, I guess it's not weird. If you really don't want to get married, you don't have to.
Sure.
And
yeah.
but I was thinking, you were saying like, what's a secular reason to get married? It's just because, mostly if you want to have kids, I would think. If you don't plan on ever having kids, and
Wait, okay,
and
well,
you're secular,
sure.
I'm sure there's no point to get married. But
Let's say I want to have 7 sons. Explain to me how marriage is going to facilitate that.
it's just like when you're married, your household is more likely to be stable than if you weren't. And kids need a stable household.
Okay, so I'm dating a woman. We love each other, etc. What changes before marriage? Like, what's the difference? What actually changes?
Like
Like,
It's
how does it
just a
become more
commitment.
stable?
Because you're committed to each other.
What do you mean?
like,
She can go to
legally.
She can go to step into an attorney's office the day after.
legally. So what changed is that there's now force.
Well, because if you're secular and you're not getting married religiously or legally, like how are you married?
Okay, we're not talking about that.
Their
Well,
point
hang on,
is, what
hang
is the
on.
definitive
He's asking this
Factor that
question.
makes it different.
Yeah.
Here's the question he's asking. He's saying they love each other, they adore each other, they want to be with each other forever and ever and ever and ever again. What changes the day after they sign a marriage contract that suddenly makes them more stable?
Well, it's a label. And
You
that's
can
what
you can have the
women
same
like
label absent the
labels.
contract.
Women like labels.
That's what they want. That's why they want to be
So,
your girlfriend, and that's why they want to be
I'll
your wife.
even grant to you that women want to get married because they feel more secure. But you're talking, you need to make a compelling argument for why men should get married, and how you feel is not a compelling enough reason.
Did you want a secular point of view of that? Because
Yes.
Well, if they know their woman wants to feel stable and that marrying her will make her feel that way, then why wouldn't you
But
marry
I can
her
just
to make her
reverse
happy?
this and say I would feel more stable if we didn't get married.
Yeah,
that
but like,
would just nullify it. Because if you guys
Exactly.
don't agree.
yeah, but if you don't agree, why would you even be together in the first
Well, you're
place?
asking why it's
Well, she's going to have to defer to me. Otherwise, I mean, if she keeps pushing it, that's the end of the relationship.